Isabel. So Isabel asked about developing your mental game for competition. I mean, again, could go in a lot of different ways with the mental preparation. I've always been someone to be nervous. I always have anxiety coming up in competitions. I've never competed in a totally like zen, calm, zero nerve state. And I don't know if that's really part of who I am. I think that recognizing that nerves and anxiety really are the same physiological experience a lot of time as excitement, and it has a lot to do with dealing with the unknown. So when you're dealing with excitement, a lot of times it's the unknown and you're excited about something that may happen or may become. Then we have worry and fear, and oftentimes it's a similar thing where there's an unknown and we're worried about something that may happen, right? But it's unknown. So going into the unknown is scary, and it's not to say there aren't differences between anxiety and excitement, but in a lot of ways that, you know, hand sweatiness, the butterflies, the like, you know, kind of like wondering what people are going to think of you, these things that come up are very, very similar. And so for me, I try to keep it very simple and anchor myself down into a couple of practices that really work for me. So number one, like I build a playlist around competing. So I have music that I listen to on repeat consistently, and I'll even bring it down to one song, and I'll play that on repeat, on repeat, on repeat. And that song helps me anchor into a physical state that I'm trying to experience. The same thing I do with that, I do with mantras. So I'll pick a mantra, and I'll have that be set for a specific tournament, and I change it through over the years, you know, based on what I need at that time. So I've had mantras be like, I'm the fucking best, you know. I've had mantras be, I can always win no matter what. Like I went into ADCC 2022 with a really severe injury, but I knew I wanted to compete anyway. And so it was important for me to realize, like, if I can't get to my best positions, if I get fatigued because I haven't been able to train as much as I'd like to, if I start to feel the pressure of what are people going to think about me because it's my first time at a tournament of this magnitude, like I can always win no matter what. So that's what I needed at that time. But I picked that and I keep that, right? And then another thing that I use is I have a very specific game plan that I'm looking for. It doesn't mean that I don't have fluidity and flexibility and other things that may present themselves, but I am very, very specific about what I'm trying to do, and I'm consistently visualizing that, both in training, in the car before I walk into training, closing my eyes for 5 minutes to walk myself through a competition experience, doing it exactly as I want it to look, hearing, smelling, seeing, trying to create that really for myself in my mind, and I do it all the way up to right before I compete. So those three things really anchor me into a repeatable state of faith in myself and my abilities, gratitude and excitement for what I get to do, and then embracing the unknown. Feeling the nerves, feeling the excitement, feeling the anxiety, and being like, I see you. Thanks for showing up. Thanks for making sure I'm alive. Thanks for having, you know, some sense, because what I am going to do is scary. So it'd be weird if you weren't here, because I care a lot. And also, like, let's go fucking do this. You know, like, thanks, come with me. Like, instead of like, oh, I hate nerves, like, because when I fight it like that, it can sometimes win. So it's the same thing with fatigue. Everyone's had the experience of being tired in training, right? But sometimes the fatigue comes up and I'm like, thanks, tired, good luck. Like, come with me. Like, you're not gonna win. Like, it's having that relationship with whatever's coming up in ourselves and allowing it to be seen, allowing it to be present, and saying, like, I'm not gonna die, you know? The sun's gonna come up tomorrow. I paid to be here. I chose to be here. I signed up for this. And why? Probably because I wanted to see what I'm made of. So I'm not gonna turn away now just because there's some feelings about it. That's normal, I'm human. And so those three things, like, there's other stuff I could go into, but specifically the music, the mantras, and the visualization anchor me into a physical state that I can repeat and sharpen over the years, and I can predict that I can create my best outcomes in that state. But it starts from doing it in training. So if we think it's just gonna show up on competition day, that's tough. So doing that stuff in training, making your playlist for the way to like, taking it seriously, like, yeah, have fun, relax too. It's not always like that, but like, listen to your music, do your visualization, have your mantras that you say to yourself when freaking Bob or Steve is smashing on you and sweating in your mouth, okay? Like, what am I gonna say to myself right then, right? Because in a lot of ways, the stuff that happens to us in training is way harder than what we do in competition. It's the emotion that makes it different, right? So it's like, expect to have an emotional experience, but anchor yourself, like, take your power back. Like, anchor yourself to yourself. What can you control? And those things I can control. So there's a lot more I could say, but those are like always on the list. Yeah, I hope that's helpful. Yes, yeah.
I wonder if you could talk about how you approach working on parts of your game that are not your best areas. Because for me, I'm a hobbyist, like compete now and then, but
Yeah.
I'm also pretty competitive.
Yeah.
And so like when I'm in the room, I want to do what I'm best at.
Yeah.
But it means I don't have a guard.
Yeah. Perfect girl to ask this question to. When I was a purple belt, I'd been winning a lot of stuff, and my dad was like, "You need to pull guard for 6 months," and I was like, "Fuck you." No, I'm just kidding. I didn't say that to my dad, but I felt it. I was like, "Oh no." So we'll talk a little bit about this in the workshop, and I think that could really help if you're able to come to it, because when I plan out my training, I give myself capped periods of time for what I'm going to be working on, so I know that there's a start and an end, right? So if he said for 6 months. I don't really train like that anymore. That was more of a generalized thing. Now I have like, okay, I'm gonna work on these things for 4 weeks, no matter what, right? And I'm going to, even if I get smashed, even if I get my feelings hurt, I know I'm gonna emerge better on the other side. And then in 4 weeks from now, I get to go back to my knee cuts and I'll be happy, right? So having a start and an end point and not leaving it up to the day-to-day of how you feel. Because if I had to feel like I wanted to do the things that I'm bad at, I would never do it. Or maybe like 1 out of 365 days. Usually I don't feel like doing it. So having a plan, taking some ownership over your training, whether you want to compete or not, and like that's what I'm hearing you saying. It's like, well, I just want to get better for me. So if that's the case, and most people in the room probably feel that way, whether they compete or not, it's like, take the ownership of writing down what you're going to work on and when. And then, so say it's playing guard, right? Start with something that feels manageable. So for example, when I started playing guard, my first goal was like, can I pull guard? Can I close it? How long can I hold him? How long can I keep him from opening my guard? And that was the only thing I cared about for a while. And I would go with partners who challenged me but weren't gonna murder me, you know? Like I would pick people that I'm like, this is gonna suck, and usually if I did my game plan, I'd probably tap them out, but I know that I'm probably not gonna get hurt and I can probably hold them for a little while. And then I'd go to the next thing. Okay, well, can I set up a guard? Let me pick an open guard. If they open my guard, what do I go to? Pick one thing. Don't be like, I'm gonna play every guard, and then you're just laying on your back like a turtle, and you're like, I don't know what to do, and now you're past my guard. So it's like, okay, is it spider? Is it single leg X? Is it butterfly? Collar sleeve? Where am I gonna go? Even now, I train that way. Like, I pick a guard that I wanna work on because I want to have the most fast, efficient progress as I can, and I also want to be happy while training, which means I need positive reinforcement, which means I need to succeed as well as struggle. And then lastly, I ask people to do specific training with me from specific positions so I can make small incremental improvements, which we'll talk about more in the workshop, so that at the end of the day, I'm like, oh, I actually got better today, instead of like, oh, I just got tougher today, because that was my story for so long. And I know some people relate to that. It's like, oh, well, I went in and I worked really hard, but I don't even know if I actually got better. Like, I think I just got the shit beat out of me and I survived. And it's like, but did I get better? And then we look back after months and we're like, when's the last time I added a new skill, right? Like, and I see a lot of head nodding because a lot of us experience that. And it's what I work on with a lot of my clients in Jiu Jitsu Accelerator, and it's globally for a reason, because everyone's experiencing that, because we're not taught how to coach ourselves. We have an instructor who's trying to teach 350 students, right? Or whatever. And it's like, they can't possibly know everyone's journey. So even as a professional athlete, like, that's my job. So I think that the workshop will help a lot with it, but hopefully some of those tips already can kind of give some ideas. Yeah, thanks for the question. Yes?
Hi, could you talk a little bit about getting injured during a training camp and what you have learned from that experience? Like,
Cry. I'm just kidding. Yeah.
While also giving your body time for rest, because I really struggled with that.
Anyone else ever been injured? Yeah, just a little. Okay, Justine's like, my wrist right now. Okay, so and you're talking specifically about while getting ready for something? Yeah, that's really hard, right? So just like everything, there's different circumstances that matter. One of them is if you're still gonna compete, right? So is it a situation where you're still gonna be working towards competing, or you're out of the game?
Yeah, so you're like far enough out that you're like, okay, maybe I'll be better.
Yeah.
If I'm good
Yeah.
with my body, maybe I'll be better.
Yeah. Are you in that situation right now?
No.
Oh, I was just curious. Yeah. Yeah. So I've been in that situation, and ADCC 2022 was probably like the biggest season of that for me. 2024 had its similarities with my knee, but 2022, my back was really injured, and what happened for me was I knew no matter what I wanted to compete, but there were days that I literally couldn't walk. So I was like, well, how is this responsible? You know, like, am I gonna thrash my body and not be able to pick up my kids when I'm 50? Like, what are you talking about here, you know? And that's like a really real thing that we see around in our world. So I think a couple of things. Number one, I kept my schedule. This is specifically if you're gonna compete, right? I kept my schedule the exact same, but what I did during those sessions changed. So I would show up to training and I would do my physical therapy on the mats while everyone else was training. And it gave me this sense of like, I'm still part of, I'm still professional, whether you like make money or competing or not. I mean treating yourself professionally, right? Like, I'm still professional. I'm taking it like, because when I'm injured, usually it's my self-esteem that needs some work. My body too. But oftentimes what goes first is the self-esteem, because it's like, am I gonna compete well? I can't move the way I want to. I don't feel like myself. My body feels like fluffy or whatever. Like I don't like this. Like I'm like, I don't feel at home in my body the way I'm used to feeling at home in my body. And that's not fun. So it's like, where's the self-esteem there? Okay, so I'm showing up. I'm allowing myself to be loved on by the people around me, and it might not always be lovey-dovey, and the guys do it in their own way, but they're joking around and they're happy to see you, and people have good energy around you. That's important, staying around your people. And then the esteem comes in, like, what am I doing with that time? Is it the physical therapy? Is it while they're doing the drills, I can do some of the drills, and I'm specifically working on what I know I need to get better at for the competition. That goes back to the training plans. So I might not do what the entire class is doing, and I have a conversation with my coach about that. Hey, I can only do 20 minutes of jiu-jitsu. So is it okay? Do you mind if I just actually drill the stuff that I know I can do based on my injury? And then while they're sparring, I may be doing physical therapy, or I may be watching and I may be helping coach, and I may stay involved that way. So I try to keep my schedule. I try to do the things that I know help me move closer to who I want to be on competition day. And I use that time to focus a lot on my mindset work as well. And so I do a lot of visualization. Our brains don't really know the difference. And if you've ever studied like sports psychology, or a lot of other sports utilize this more than jiu-jitsu does. But if you ever study a lot of sports psychology, mental rehearsal is just as powerful as physical rehearsal much of the time, especially if you get a lot of practice with making it a visceral experience for yourself. Mental rehearsal is just as powerful, if not more, can be just as, if not the same, level of power as physical rehearsal. And that's such a weird thing that's like hard to believe, but I've seen it come true in my life, and I've read the research on it, right? And so when I'm injured, I take that as this like delusional state change of like, I'm gonna get more repetition in than my competitors now. Because now I actually have more time to do this mental rehearsal, and I can do that faster than I can do it physically, and my body doesn't have to get beat up in the process. So I focus a lot on the mental rehearsal, and that takes a lot of discipline. Because to be honest, when I'm hurt, I don't wanna do any of that shit because I don't feel motivated. But the thing is, when I do the stuff that moves me closer to who I wanna be, the motivation follows those actions, rather than feeling like I need to feel motivated to complete those things. When I'm training, it's easy to feel motivated. When you're injured, a lot of the time, the mental stuff, the nutrition, the sleep, the not doom scrolling quite as much, like all of these things that really bring us closer to who we want to be are more important than ever. And so keeping my schedule, showing up around people who make me want to be a better version of myself, surrounding myself with people I want to be more like, and also having people in my corner that remind me who the fuck I am, because I forget too. And like, whoever that is for you, calling them up and being like, dude, I'm feeling really sorry for myself and I'm kind of throwing a pity party right now. Can you like help? And sometimes that's what it is. And then I'm like, okay, then I get back. And so whatever it takes, like claw your way out of whatever it takes to get into the actions that fuel your self-esteem. And I find the motivation follows those things. Yeah, I could say a lot about injuries, but that's probably the key. Yeah. Take a question over here, yeah.
What's the biggest difference in your opinion at brown and black? I'm curious about your perspective specifically as a woman, but also is there anything that surprised you?
I think that the difference between belts at any given time mostly has to do with what's up here, right? So you see people blow through every belt and win a world at every belt without stopping. And to be honest, their jiu-jitsu hasn't changed that much. So why is that, right? Like that's an interesting question to me as someone who loves the sport and loves sports psychology. Like why is that? It doesn't mean that maybe they were so dominant at blue belt, they were already at black belt level, but I don't know if it's always that. I think it has a lot to do with the way we perceive ourselves in relation to the people we're competing against or the people we're training with. So are there differences at every belt? Absolutely, but I think it's a highly personalized journey. I think it's more of the question of like, what's the difference for you between brown and black belt and the colored belt? What's the difference for me? Because for me, and my jiu-jitsu wasn't that special and is not that special, right? I'm a great competitor, don't get me wrong, and I've got good jiu-jitsu, but it's not like I was some phenom that, no, you know what I'm saying? So then it's like, well, why could I keep winning? Why did I go and win my first no-gi world championship at black belt, a couple months after my black belt? It's not because my jiu-jitsu was so extraordinary. It's because I believed that I could. It was that simple. Like, yes, the jiu-jitsu backed it up, but it was the mindset over the jiu-jitsu versus the jiu-jitsu over the mindset. So for you, you're purple belt, I'm assuming, because I see that rash guard. Awesome. So going into brown and black belt versus what you've been in, I would ask yourself, like, what experience do you want to have? And then create that. Because her experience going into brown and black belt and mine and hers, and yeah, I'll include him too. And is different. And I don't mean that to be a cop-out answer. Like, there are some certain things, yes, like when, brown and black belt, you get these black belts that have been black belts for so many years. But you know what? You also get black belts that got their black belt and then never learned another technique, and that's real. And that happens. And no shame, like, this is not a judgment game. I'm just saying, don't judge yourself comparing to something that is already so vast. Like, it's whatever you want it to be, really. Like, and that's not like airy-fairy, that's like real. Because you watch people do it. So, do you compete? No? Are you wanting to compete at brown and black belt, maybe? Yeah. So that's kind of where my mindset's coming from, too, is like, you are like worthy of confidence on the mat. You're worthy of respect on the mat. Whenever you get promoted, you're worthy of your purple belt currently. When you get your brown belt and black belt, you'll be worthy of those things. So walking into the room as who you want to be as a brown belt and black belt, I feel, and a pro belt today, is much more important than like what are the differences between the ranks, because in jiu-jitsu, it's so subjective, and in life it's so subjective. But I think like the things that make you feel good about your jiu-jitsu journey, the things that make you feel good about your confidence in jiu-jitsu right now are the most important things to amplify instead of worrying about what you might need to catch up in, because there's gonna be catch up no matter what. Like, I am still learning all the time. There's so much I don't know. And yes, being humble and curious about that is important, but when I focus on what I excel in and I work on weaponizing those strengths and also like allowing myself to feel really proud of those things, like that's where the power is for me. And that's why I go and beat people that are much better jiu-jitsu and way more experienced, because I'm like, I tell myself a story that I can, and then I back it up with my actions, and then we do it. So, yeah, I hope that's helpful. Yeah, it's an individualized journey for everybody, but yeah, awesome. I know you were about to say time on.
It's 10:23.
Okay. I saw like one really excited hand back there, and I can't help myself, so let me take one more question. And I do want to say, if you had a question and we missed the question, maybe come find me on my way out or shoot me a message or something. Like, I'm always love to talk about anything that you guys need. So as much information as I can give, I always will. So yes, I saw a question back there.
So you did the unfair advantage mindset course, right?
I did years ago, yeah. Cool. Well, first of all, congratulations. It's a huge, huge deal to invest in your development in so many ways. But particularly, obviously, I'm very passionate about sports psychology and mental development and strength in sports and in life. I mean, I think that carries over. So it's a big deal. So what she was saying, she did a course with a mindset coach that I worked with in the past. I think we worked together in 2021. His Instagram is Mindset Mike. If you're ever interested, his stuff's really good. I feel I've worked with a lot of coaches, right? So when I was in wrestling, I was at the Olympic Training Center a lot. When I'm in judo, I'm working with, like, I've been really blessed to be around really great people. And I feel that what has been great for me is deciding which things could either amplify a strength that I already had, like we just talked about, or help fill a gap that I had a lot of maybe not insecurity, but like awareness around of like, okay, there's a big gap there. Like I don't need to bring it to a 10, but like, let's try to get it to a 4 or a 5, right? So I'll tell you what I like from him, but then I think for you, it's a different question. Like, what do you need? You know, what do you take forward? For me, I kept the things that were fun. And a lot of times, like, I know I'm speaking very intensely right now, but a lot of times it's like, I like to do what's fun, okay? So for me, like, he used to ask me this question, and I do this with my clients sometimes, and you probably have been through this question, is like the question of, like, why are you doing this? And then you would answer, and then he would ask again. Okay, so why? So you'd say, like, why are you competing? You'd be like, oh, well, I want to win gold medals. Okay, why do you want to win gold medals? Oh, well, I want to show my kids that I can be really strong and a mom and win gold medals at the same time and nothing will hold them back. It is obviously not my story. I don't have children. But I've heard people say this. Okay, why is that important to you as a mom? And then you go down and down and then finally get down to like a core thing. That's really fun for me. And I think asking myself that question on a consistent basis is important to keep myself in reality so that I'm not basing my actions off of an old why that doesn't really apply anymore, because we are changing and evolving all the time, and so our whys do change. So that's something that I keep in mind. I just said it a minute ago, which maybe is what you heard. I keep the phrase, like I weaponize my strengths rather than focusing on what is like needs to be improved all the time. That has its place. But I like every single person here, if you think about like, what are my strengths? If you just wrote down like, what are my 3 top strengths? Like really think about that. Like when's the last time someone asked you, like, what are your top 3 strengths? And then try to weaponize those as much as you can and sharpen them and make them tools. So yeah, there are many more things I can go into with the work with him, but I think those concepts are what I took out the most rather than like specific daily practices, because I found specific daily practices that are fun for me that I like that utilize similar concepts. Yeah. But yeah, bravo. That's awesome that you did that. Cool. Awesome. So I know we're over on time for questions, guys. But like I said, please come find me to ask any questions if you would like to. I would love to answer and talk about them. In a moment, we are going to do some photos. And then after that, I know they're going to open these doors. There's going to be lunch happening. If you guys want to do the BJJ Roadmap workshop, which I am so stoked to show you because it's something I do with my clients, and it completely changes the way that you train and the way that you feel like you can accelerate on a shorter term basis rather than training and then like 6 months later looking back and being like, I don't know what I actually added to my game, or did I just get tougher, like that concept. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about personal ownership over your jiu-jitsu journey. You can grab your lunch and come sit down and do it with us, and we'll give you a journal to write with, so don't feel like you have to choose between eating and nourishing yourself and doing the workshop. You can do both at the same time. And then the last thing that I'll say is, unfortunately, I am flying to New York tonight for the Nogi Pans tomorrow because I'll be commentating, so I won't be with you the rest of the weekend, which I'm super, super sad about. So if you want to do a photo, now is definitely the time because I'll be taking off later this afternoon, okay? And lastly, a huge thank you again to Maya and Suli for being the most amazing and putting this on, and for you guys being here. Thank you so much.